It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me.
Oh, I'm touching myself tonight.
Well, stop me if you've heard this one before, gang, but Marvel is working on a story where a well-known superhero with a bit of a dark side has to endure the insufferable shenanigans of the Merc with the Mouth. That's right. In a rare pairing of the big two, DC Comics and Marvel are joining forces for a two-part comic run of Batman and Deadpool, or Deadpool and Batman, depending on which issue you're looking at. When this comic hits the shelves on September 17th, it will be the first time that DC and Marvel have crossed over since 2003, when they did the Justice League Avengers crossover. According to the article by Nick Romano, this story will feature Wade Wilson being hired for a job in Gotham City that puts him in the crosshairs of the world's greatest detective. And of course, accompanying the main one-shot will be a lineup of, and I quote, backup adventures. Now, I know what you're thinking. How exciting. How enthralling. I cannot wait to spend money on these backup adventures. But before you get too upset, would it help you to know that these backup adventures will feature, and again I quote here, exciting Marvel and DC character matchups? That is, of course, according to an official description of the project. However, those are really all the details that we have. The Joker's name is mentioned in this article as well. When they say, in Batman, we found someone who has even less time for Deadpool's antics than Wolverine, but a citywide threat from the Joker makes strange bedfellows. Now, please forgive me for not giving a spoiler alert before reading that description, but in my defense, that had to be exactly the story that you thought it would be, right? Like, what? That's the most basic crossover story you could invent with these two. It doesn't help that Deadpool is just a fourth wall breaking reskin of Deathstroke, but this is not the most exciting story that you could ever come up with. And at least we have the to be named later backup stories that will hopefully do some filling of the blanks. I hate to say it, gang, but I think there was more to the Batman Fortnite crossover comics than there are in this, in what should be a major event. Like, these crossover comics, I understand they're going to get probably more and more rare as time goes on. Both companies plan their runs probably a couple of years in advance, so things have to line up in order for this to happen. So it's fair to concede that we may never see year-long crossover events or anything of that larger significance, but just to have this odd couple, wouldn't you know it, the Merc with the Mouth gets all up in Batman's business being a nuisance, and they're going to fight in issue 1, find that there's a larger threat. Maybe the Joker hired him. There's where there's a possibility for some twist or something, at least. Who will have hired Deadpool and why? Will it maybe be a ruse of some kind? Lord help us, I hope there's at least a ruse involved. And then, of course, by the time we start issue 2, I imagine they will be on the same team. Maybe that kicks in later. Maybe it's the final act. But how large are these one-offs going to be? Like, we're not talking about a graphic novel here, are we? I don't want to nitpick too much because, generally speaking, this idea is cool. It pairs my favorite character of all time in the comic realm, at least as far as Batman, and Deadpool is near and dear to my heart. Shout out to Lucky, our fellow dweeb, but it's a little underwhelming, is what I'll say, to see this 2-issue crossover. And when I think about the marketing of this, right, this is an Entertainment Weekly article, but they've got multiple quotes. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing for you. I'll put a link in the description. I do suggest you read it yourself if you are interested in hearing more about the creator's thoughts. Again, this was written by Nick Romano, but they're talking to Jim Lee, they're talking to Capullo, they're talking to people who are involved in not only creating this but selling it. And the copy that they came up with, that they not only provided to the author of this article, but as he referenced, it was also in an official description. I understand if that's the internal term, backup adventures. This should not have made it. This is not a client-facing message right here, gang. Backup adventures? You couldn't have had 1 or 2 people from marketing at least give you a half-assed buzzword to try to make it seem like you've put in any thought into how else you might flesh out this one shot, as they call it. We don't know how many of these backup adventures, even just saying it makes me laugh every time. I apologize. We don't know how many of these there are. So maybe I will look back on this and think, all right, we were a little too hard on the backup books, but it really seems like they could have put a little more thought into that aspect, as well as the story in general. It almost, if it weren't for the September release date, it almost would make me think that this was something that they have announced it, but they don't really know what the story is. I would like to imagine here we are in June that the story is done, so it means it probably really is this simple, basic thing that they've trotted out here. I don't think I'm going to buy this one, gang, so let me know when it comes out if you've read it, if it is worth the time, because I don't know that this one will be worth adding to my collection. But let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts? Have you read the previous Deadpool and Spider-Man crossover, or any of the Marvel and DC crossovers from previous years? Who's your favorite comic character? Let us know. Be sure to leave a like on your way out and subscribe if you're new here. We do live shows Mondays at 6 where we discuss multiple topics just like this on the Weekly Dweeb. And of course, Star Wars fans, if the Force is with you, come join us Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern for Han Shot First. Until next time, gang, thank you for hanging out. We will see you around.